Good evening, everyone. Severe Weather Team 9 meteorologist Nathan Schott here for this edition of Nate at 8. And boy, we felt that uptick in humidity today. A lot of fuel for these showers and thunderstorms, which have returned this afternoon and now continuing this evening. And we're going to be watching them continuing on and off now as we go through tomorrow before we notice at least some drier weather return before more rounds of some rain. So that is some of what we're going to be talking about for this edition of Nate at 8. Those showers and thunderstorms continuing, remaining humid as well during this stretch, and unfortunately that potential for severe weather and flooding remains possible as well. So without further ado, let's jump into things, shall we? Our current temperatures now across the area. We've dealt with a lot of rain-cooled temperatures falling into the 70s, even some 60s. Now, temperatures are not going to drop much more than that, as the limiting factor certainly is going to be that dew point, as we could cool towards the mid-60s. That's likely the coolest that we're going to get as we look ahead into tomorrow, is still going to maintain overall a mild, muggy night does lie ahead. Good evening there, Joe. Thanks for tuning in on this Thursday evening. Good evening there, Austin. Today was another miserable day. How is the muggy meter going to be throughout the weekends? We're going to jump into that as well. But yeah, certainly a humid day across the area. And we discussed this yesterday. I don't know how everyone felt, but I think that overall, with that uptick in humidity, it almost did feel a little warmer today with respect to yesterday. Both days still warm across the area, but certainly noticing that uptick in humidity today, while is more tolerable, you could say, for yesterday. Dew points have been mid-upper 60s. That's right in the range where we start to get to just the feeling of humid. By the time it gets to 70 plus, that's where I would say you almost just start to instantly sweat as you step outside the door. It's just unbearably humid, 70 plus. Not anticipated to reach that, but still these mid-upper 60s, that's right in the range. If you think of a humid summer day, that's where a lot of the time our dew points will end up. And that's what we're going to see likely carry over tonight as well as tomorrow. So anticipating that humid feel to the air to remain in place throughout Friday. But by the time we get into the weekend, Austin, that's when we'll see that humidity drop off. So we'll notice going throughout the day Saturday that much more pleasant air will be returning. So we get through one more humid day, and then that drop in humidity will be felt into Saturday. A little uptick in that humidity then going into Sunday, Monday, but going into Tuesday, then it'll drop back off. So likely feeling a bit humid at times later this weekend and early next week before likely dropping off into the middle of next week. But certainly here near term, likely the most humid stretch of weather that we'll have as we do look ahead here over the next at least 5 days, if not the next week, as it'll be quite humid here as we go throughout Friday. So certainly some relief is in sight if you're not a fan of the humid weather, which I don't know if I know anybody that's a fan of the humid weather. So certainly nice to see that drop in dew points by Saturday. Live radar is still dealing with showers and thunderstorms. Thankfully, the impactful rain is beginning to taper off. We saw that severe risk end even earlier this evening. Still, dealing with some flooding concerns, and you can see the area highlighted where we've been dealing with the worst of this flooding in our area. That's into northern Carroll County. Still raining, and that flash flood warning remains in effect. You can see radar estimated rainfall, just that red dot into portions there, northern Carroll County. So that's where radar's estimated the most rain has fallen here over the last 6 hours as this rain has broke out. Of course, a lot of this falling with even over the past few hours as we saw this really break out going throughout the afternoon and continuing into this evening. Still some pockets of pretty heavy rain in some spots as well. Radar estimates still upwards of an inch and a half in some locations. The flash flood guidance was around an inch and a quarter plus. So anywhere that saw close to that, if not more, which wasn't a lot of us, but some of us did reach close to, if not exceeding that threshold. That was the threshold we had for today to see flash flooding occur, was to pick up that amount of rain in 1 hour. So we did see that in some spots. And again, the main area of concern right now, where the flood waters likely still remain are present, would be there into Carroll County, where that flash flood warning is in effect as rain still continues to fall. Not as heavy as it was earlier into the afternoon, but still nonetheless, the rain continues to fall. Flash flood warning remains in effect till 8:30. We saw some heavy rain move back in as that flash flood warning was already in effect earlier this evening. So that's certainly the area of concern for flooding here throughout this evening. Northern Carroll County, that's north of Carrollton, towards Augusta into northern Carroll County. So if you're traveling through that area, just keep in mind that you're going to want to use some caution if you're going on 43 north of Carrollton, up towards Augusta, maybe heading up towards Alliance, that you're certainly going to use some caution as you could come across, not to say that road specifically, but just some roads in northern Carroll County in general, where you could come across some high water on those roads, and you'll always want to make sure to turn around, don't drown. Also, the unfortunate part here over the next hour, where we start to, obviously see not only that sunset, but we even start to lose what daylight lingers here as we get into the early part of tonight. The floodwater can become almost impossible to see at night. Of course, it's impossible to judge how deep it is, so just best to use some caution on traveling into those areas, especially if you know those areas that are flood prone in the northern Carroll County, that obviously want to turn around, don't drown, going throughout the evening into early tonight. It's in fact to at least 8:30 this evening. Wouldn't be surprised if this can get extended past that mark, but that is what we're currently watching for when it comes to flooding concerns. Now, I think overall the risk for flooding, the potential there for severe weather, the severe weather threat's over for tonight, but I think even the potential for flooding will start to subside now in the overnight hours. We're still likely maintaining some showers and thunderstorms. So we're not drying up tonight. We're trending a bit drier now into the early part of tonight. But we're not drying up. We're still going to be seeing more rounds of these showers and thunderstorms likely overnight and into tomorrow morning. And you get these thunderstorms moving over areas that have previously saw some rain. And that's where with the potential for a temperature inversion, that's the scenario that we can get into tonight. That we can get those loud booms, the echoing thunder. That temperature version helps enhance thunder, and maybe if we could get some storms later on tonight, moving over locations that saw some heavy rain this evening, that potentially there was some rounds of storms later tonight. Maybe we can get those almost house shaking thunders. That's what you get with we're dealing with a temperature version when thunderstorm present that can help amplify the sound of thunders. That's why the thunder can just really linger for a long time. That's where it can get even louder, and to the point where it's shaking your house. That's where we notice that. That's why it occurs is with the temperature version in place. So when we say temperature version, just meaning that the temperatures at a height in the atmosphere, they're warming instead of cooling. Typically temperatures are cooling with height in the atmosphere, but you can reach a layer in the atmosphere where it's actually warming, and that's what we call a temperature version. And that will help, much like an echo in a room. It's the same concept. So, if you're in a room and you hear the echo, right? It's the same concept with thunder. So it's echoing, and it's that back and forth, right? The echo, it makes the thunder louder, and you can get the rumble, and it can linger for a long period of time. That's the concept that we could see in place later on tonight. And in general, anytime you're dealing with some heavy rain and then the storm moves back in, that just in general, that's when you can see that set up. But anyway, getting back to the future cast as we look ahead for Friday morning, I think there's still likely some showers and thunderstorms around for the start of the day on Friday, and they're not going anywhere in the afternoon and evening. They just continue. It's not a steady rain all day long tomorrow. It's not a steady rain all night tonight, but it's just on and off. These scattered showers of thunderstorms, it's just round after round of them continuing, going through tomorrow and even through tomorrow night. Now, by daybreak Saturday, it does look like this rain is going to move out for the daytime. So it's good news there that we have a drier trend for Saturday. So what we thought could be a few showers lingering for the day on Saturday, it looks like by daybreak Saturday, if not all these showers, they're just moving out. So they're moving out of the area. But the bad news is, at the same time, with a faster trend, it does look like the rain that was going to hold off on Monday is arriving for Sunday. So we're flip-flopping our dry days, and it does look like, while it's good news that the rain will move out, I think, in time for the daytime Saturday, but by Sunday, especially towards the end of the day Sunday, we can have some more rain move back in. So it's a flip-flop, I think, in our dry days of what we were thinking originally earlier this week. Just with the tracking, just changing the timing of these rounds of rain is brought a change to the forecast. So it's, depending on what you have planned this weekend, it could be good, bad news, but it does look like that Saturday is going to end up being the dry day. And then Sunday, it does look like Sunday morning's dry, but getting in the afternoon and evening is when we could see some showers and thunderstorms return. So that is just the time period to watch. Later today, Sunday, for return of some rain, but it does look like that we still get most of this weekend dry. I think most, if not all, of Saturday's dry. The first half of Sunday can be dry, but later in the day, Sunday is the time then to watch for some of those showers and thunderstorms moving back in. Tommy, or actually, let's get to Joe first, saying, I'm sick of rain. And certainly, I'm sure you like the dry stretch we just had. That was certainly nice. I know it was a lot of rain through the month of May, especially later in the month. Cool and wet, right? Cool and wet. And we saw the 7th wettest May on record. So I understand, Joe. I mean, I understand. We saw a lot of that rainfall throughout May. Certainly nice to see this dry stretch of weather that we've had in place now coming to an end. And yes, unfortunately, if you're not a fan of the rain, we're going to deal with more of it going through tomorrow, but I do think we can at least sneak a good portion of the weekend in dry. So certainly some good news in that regard. Now Tommy's asking, hello to you as well. What about what's the pollen level for tomorrow? So let's look up the pollen level. So if pollen levels, a good resource is going to be just simply pollen, pollen.com. If you're ever interested in, learning the pollen count for your specific area. But yes, we'll certainly look up our pollen count for tomorrow and let's see what it is. It should certainly be lower thanks to this rain in place. It's been picking up recent, but should start to lower as we do see this rain. So that's exactly what the forecast is. So there we go. At pollen.com, showing that lowering their pollen count Friday, Saturday into Sunday, picking back up then early next week. So yeah, we saw it pick up here with this dry stretch and now it'll start to lower. So likely getting some relief. That's always the good thing with the rain, is that it can help reduce those allergen levels and anticipated to do so over the next couple of days. Then it can pick back up then early next week. So that's the pollen forecast. Lola, good evening. Hope everyone stays safe. Yes, I agree, Lola, hopefully. And what's the air quality going to be like throughout this weekend? Should be okay there, Austin. And going throughout the weekend, attention is less so smoke now, more of this rain that's going to be in place as we go into the weekend. But yeah, shouldn't be anything too crazy of a reduction in air quality. Air quality forecasts also only go out a day. So they forecast, today and tomorrow essentially. So, we don't do air quality forecast ourselves, but that is a product by the government. But yeah, they don't go out too far, but we'll keep an eye on it. And if air quality looks to be a major issue, which likely not going to be, but if it is, we'll certainly keep you aware as we go throughout the weekend. So our future cast, there's Sunday, again, showing some showers and thunderstorms likely returning for the latter part of this weekend after rain should be moving out and we should stay dry then Saturday. So what about tomorrow, right? We saw some impacts come to fruition today. What about tomorrow? Well, it looks to be very similar story, although I still think tomorrow the overall severe risk can be lower with respect to today because we have a lot cloud covered in place tomorrow. We also have some rain that could be around for the morning as well. So the wild card here, what we would need to happen, I think, for that severe threat to be there like it was for today, is we're going to want dry conditions. So if we do get around to some rain in the morning, it needs to end early. So we need to dry up late morning into midday. We need to spot some sun breaking out as well. If that can happen, then yes, we can have some severe threat extending in the afternoon, evening. But I think tomorrow is very conditional setup. So we need just the right conditions and just the right scenario for it to happen. If it does, then yes, we'll have to watch for some more severe weather. Damaging winds looks to be the primary concern, much like this evening was. Had some small hail, but in terms of the severe threat, it was more of the potential for those wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour. So that was more of the severe threat that we had for this evening. And that looks to be the similar story again for Friday. So this is obviously, a test we could do at home, right? We notice some dry conditions, some sun breaking out going into midday. And then, yeah, certainly then, it's more of alarm bells going off in our heads to say, keep closer eye on the sky into the afternoon and evening. Now, what doesn't change, even if we, spot rain in the morning, even if we spot cloud cover all day long, I don't think what doesn't change, I think, is localized flooding. So much like today, I think that threat is very present again tomorrow. We're still going to have some heavy downpours regardless of how much instability we can build. And that severe threat tomorrow, the independent part is likely localized flooding. And just like for this evening, I think it's present again going into tomorrow evening. So unfortunately, we'll have to watch one more time here going through tomorrow for the potential of with these heavy downpours in place, right? We feel how much moisture is in the atmosphere, as muggy as it is. A lot of that for these storms to tap into. So you're going to get some very heavy downpours, much like today, again for tomorrow. And the issue then, of course, lies to where if we're getting those rounds of heavy rain occurring over the same location, flooding comes into concern. So flash flooding can come into concern. So that is what we're going to be watching again tomorrow. That I think the primary concern overall, again, is localized flooding, flash flooding concerns. And then behind that would be if conditions can get just right, the potential then for some high wind gusts within these thunderstorms again for the latter part of Friday. By Saturday, then a lot of the precipitation itself tapers off, so we're not going to be tracking any impacts for the start of the weekend. We'll see going into Sunday and Monday, maybe dealing with a threat for severe weather returning as we extend into that time period, something we'll keep a closer eye on here. Once we get past tomorrow, then our attention will turn going into Sunday and Monday, but we are still watching for those showers and thunderstorms for the latter part of Sunday as well as Monday. By Tuesday, then the thunderstorms, a lot of it starts to taper off, maybe a few lingering showers, but I think we're trending drier at that point into Tuesday. Same story Wednesday into Thursday, likely dry. So we do likely sneak in mainly, if not completely dry day Saturday. Then by the middle of next week, we have another not a long dry stretch, but at least a couple, if not a few days. Maybe we can get those showers to move out in time by daybreak Tuesday, that we could even string 3 days of dry weather there. But we do look to get back into another unsettled pattern late next week into the following weekend. But at least we can sneak in a couple, maybe a few days of dry weather around the middle of next week before more showers and thunderstorms move in for the following weekend. A little bit of a cooler stretch here coming off of those highs in the 80s, going through the middle of next week. We're likely seeing these highs, which are still well in the 70s, but for a lot of these days, we can come up short of that 80-degree mark. Ultimately, this is still a lot warmer with respect to the end of May, but this is a pretty seasonable stretch. We're not straying far from the normal high, which is mid-upper 70s this time of the year. So it's a fairly seasonable stretch of weather through the middle of next week. And then we can see highs climb back in the 80s late next week. A lot of mild nights ahead. As you can see, there's nothing that's chilly. We can get to some cooler nights in the middle of next week once we start to lose more cloud cover. We can get back in the 50s, but a lot of more mild nights, seasonable afternoons. That is a lot of what we're going to be seeing coming our way with temperature-wise in your 9+1 day forecast. And again, we'll watch for more showers and thunderstorms just on and off for most of the day tomorrow, and then rain chances lower before picking back up late Sunday. So I think we still get a good portion of the weekend dry. The wettest part of the weekend is likely later into the day on Sunday, and a lot of it looks to taper off Sunday night. So we should spend Sunday night into Monday morning dry, only to have more showers and thunderstorms develop later into the day on Monday. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. Of course, I'm going to keep a close eye on what does remain as we extend into the overnight hours. Again, the severe risk is done for tonight. The flooding risk likely will start to subside as well, but that is just one thing we'll continue to monitor going throughout this evening as we see these showers and thunderstorms persist into the overnight hours. Again, after this point now, I think overall the impacts are starting to wane for the overnight hours. The main time of concern now looking forward is going to be tomorrow, again in the afternoon and evening. If we can get some dry conditions and some sunshine breaking out late morning tomorrow into midday, then the severe weather threat is present again, with damaging winds being the primary concern, but it does look to be more of a conditional setup. What doesn't change, though, is the potential for localized flooding, so we'll have to watch for that again tomorrow, with again the emphasis being into the afternoon and evening hours. So that's what we're watching as we go into the weekend. And of course, I'll keep you updated for the latest coming up tonight. News 9 at 10 on Fox 9, News 9 tonight at 11. If anything's changing going into the overnight hours, of course, I'll keep you updated then. And as always, you can tune right back in here tomorrow evening for that Friday edition of Nate at 8 as we further break down that weekend forecast to give a more precise timing of that rain later on to the day Sunday, break down any impacts we could see going into the latter part of the weekend as well. We'll take a deeper dive into that for tomorrow's edition of Nate at 8. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful night. And until then, I'll see you on the next edition of Nate at 8.